Chapter 10 is about chemical bonding. So back in 1989, which just disturbs me because that was before many of you were born, quite a while before you were born. HIV was a relatively new problem, and research into that was a very big deal. And in 1989, researchers discovered the structure of a protein called HIV protease. And here we have a model of a drug that was used, that was developed to inhibit that enzyme, the protease. So how do they develop things like this? You have any idea? I mean, how do you find a drug that works on something? In the old days, people would, get desperate and suck on the root of a tree or something. It's like, hey, my headache's better, right? Some things have been discovered by accident that way. I think we've probably gone through all the accidental discoveries now, and it takes a little more effort. So we study the disease, the HIV virus, and we try to find ways to shut it down, right? We haven't found a cure for it yet, but this indinavir will inhibit the HIV protease, and so the HIV virus cannot reproduce. And so you can hold it at bay as long as you keep taking the drug. To develop this drug, they had to study the bonding and the shape of the protease and find out, well, what sort of a thing would fit in there into this enzyme and block the active site so that it can't make what it's wanting to make. And the way they look at that is with bonding models. And so chemistry plays a big part in the development of new drugs. Bonding theories, remember theories versus laws. Laws say, if you do this, this is what happens. We've observed this over and over again. The theory says, why do things behave the way they do? So a bonding theory predicts how atoms are going to bond together to form molecules. It can help us to predict what combinations of atoms might form a stable compound and which ones might not. It helps us to predict the formulas of compounds. We've learned about ionic compounds, is how you can look at the charges and the electrons and predict formulas, but what about those molecular compounds? How does nitrogen and oxygen, how do those atoms get together? Bonding theories can help us to predict those formulas. It also helps to explain the shapes of molecules. And shapes of molecules can be really important in things like, developing indinavir. So there are different theories, and they vary in how complicated they are and in how useful they are. So Lewis theory is the simplest one. It does not work for everything, but it works for a lot of the main group elements, and it's relatively easy to understand, and so it's very useful, and it's definitely the simplest method. So we're going to talk about Lewis theory.